Welcome everyone to a very long video. I'm going to assume it is anyway because we're going through each and every one of my tier 10s. And I'm going to be rating them 1 through 10 and telling you what I would change. And I'm going to assume that I have to change something on each tank. Something has to change. And so that's what we're going to go through. Starting off with the Sheridan, I'm going to rank it a 5. It's neither here nor there. And if I compare it to other light tanks, it's a 3. So yeah, but the Sheridan, because of its huge size, it has horrible camouflage for a light tank, meaning it performs more like a medium. I don't like that. I think it should be very good at countering light tanks. If that's going to be the case, it needs to be a light tank killer. And so what I would do to it is give it 430 meters view range, base view range, which is better than any other tank in the game, just allowing it to see things in bushes and outspot light tanks and get them killed if they're hiding up somewhere in a bush. Just make it very good at countering light tanks. Of course, you're going to get spotted in the process because they're huge, but you can at least spot them as well. I would do the same thing for the M48A5 patent, or just the patent here. I would give it 430 meters view range, best in class medium tank there. I would change nothing else about it. As far as it goes right now, I would rank it a 7. I think it's a great tank. I really like it. I love to pull it out, but I also get outclassed so much these days, and I think it's just nostalgia that makes me hold on to it. The M60, I'm going to give this an 8 right now, maybe a 7. I'm actually going to put it on par with the M48A5. The gun just feels a little derpy to me, and I don't know why that is with 6.0, but I just feel a little more solid and robust in the M48, but you have more speed in the M60 and more camouflage. But what I would do to this is I would remove its heat shells, which have 350 millimeters of penetration, and I would give it APCR or APDS with 315. So nerf that premium pen, but now you have APCR as your secondary. Now most people are probably going to be spamming that, I know, but I think that's what I would do to change this tank. Make it a little more unique. The T95E6, I'm going to give this one an 8. I think it's the better of the American medium tanks, and that's because of the gun. The gun is a bit derpy, but 420 alpha damage, AP rounds with 258 millimeters of penetration, fantastic normalization. It's just a fantastic tank. What I would do to change it, though, is I would give it 2,000 hit points instead of 2,100 or 2,150. Like, that's a little bit too much. And I think that's it. That's where I would stop. I think the tank is good. It's good where it's at. Just the health is a bit high. Why does it have so much? I don't know. T125. T125 is a powerhouse at tier 10 right now. I would give it a 9. 9 out of 10. In fact, it's close to 10 out of 10, but I can think of other tanks which I prefer. But I think among players, this is probably a 10 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. And what I would do to change it is I would remove its hit points. It's at 2,400. I would put it back down to 2,200. Not sure why they decided they need to buff that along with the armor, along with the gun handling, and along with the DPM. And that's the problem Wargaming have, is they overbuff and over nerf. They don't just change one thing. Like, hey, what's causing this tank to suffer? Okay, let's adjust that. Or what makes this tank special and unique? Okay, let's buff that. No, it's like, hey, let's buff as much as we can about a tank. It's like, no, one thing at a time. That's what I would do. The T57 Heavy, I think, is way too powerful. It's way too good, and I've always thought that. And people are going to disagree, and I know that, and that's fine. But again, I have to change tanks myself. I'm going to give it a 9 as well. My opinion on it, actually, I'm going to give it an 8. All right, and maybe even a 7, just because I don't enjoy playing it that much. But I would nerf it. I know, oh, here comes the nerf. I is very good at standing and delivering. The 50B can't do that. So what I would do to the T57 Heavy is I would nerf its inner clip from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds. So now it takes you 1.5 seconds longer to dump your entire magazine. And I think that's fair because you have 420 alpha now instead of 400. So now you're taking a little bit longer to dump your magazine, but it's only a 1.5 seconds longer to dump all 4 shells. 1.5 seconds. That's it. But that's what I would do. I would give people more time to get their gun on and shoot it when it's dumping its magazine. Next is the T58 Heavy. This is a very easy fix. What I would do is nerf its penetration. That's what's wrong with it. It has way too much penetration. I would give it 250. In fact, what is the E100s? I think it's like 248. I would give it 248 millimeters of standard pen, which people are like, 248, that's so low. Yeah, you're a heavy tank with 750 alpha damage. And then I would give it 310 millimeters of heat pen. That's it. Nothing more than that. 310. I think that's fair. I mean, look at the magazine you're doing. You're doing 2,250 damage in one magazine. That's crazy. MBTB is at a very good place right now. It doesn't really need to be changed too much, but what I would do to it, because it does have the 120, is I would give it 420 alpha damage. I don't know why they felt the need to give it 430, but hey, that's what I would do. And I would nerf its view range to 410. Why does it have 420 on a heavy tank? I don't know. That's a little bit obnoxious. It's a very powerful tank, 10 degrees of gun depression, trolley armor. A lot of players are using it. I would give it those nerfs. T110 E4. Oh, but what am I rating? Sorry, I missed the rating on the 58 heavy. I'm gonna rate it a 6. I think it's boring and dumb to play. It's just a win tank. If you play it, you win. I have such a high win rate in this tank. The MBTB, I'm gonna give it a 7. It's also kind of boring to play, but 7 is pretty good. And you're gonna notice a lot of these tanks so far are around 7s. So that's very good balance. Maybe. But this one's a 7 for me. T110 E4 is a 10. It is so stinking good. They buffed its armor a bit back, and before that, they buffed its gun handling and DPM. It has better gun handling and DPM than the T110 E3. I'm gonna double check just to make sure. 2,984. 3,035. 0.35 accuracy. 0.35 accuracy. Aim time is 2.4. 2.78. Okay. Okay, so the aim time is a little bit better on the E3, but the DPM on the E4 is better, and they nerfed the gun handling on the E3. It's not worse than the E4, but they still nerfed it. And so you're gonna hear I'm gonna be comparing these two. I would make the E4's cupola very weak. It should be penned by tier 8 standard rounds. And I'm serious. This is not a heavy tank. It's not supposed to be a heavy tank. It's supposed to be the turreted version, the lightly armored turreted version of the E3. Like, hey, you want lighter armor? Then boom, here it is. And I would nerf its reload. It should be what the E3's is now. And I would reverse these. The E4 would get the E3's reload, and the E3 would get the E4's reload. That's what I would do. And so that is all I'm changing. Okay, Cupola's nerfed and the reload nerfed. Boom, boom. This 10 tank. E3 right now I'm giving it a 6. And like I said before, I'd buff its reload. I'd buff its reload to the same as the E4 is right now. I think that would help it out a lot. The bat. The bat is weird because I don't play it much. I don't know much about it. It kind of just zooms around and I never really fear it. I think it's just a fun meme kind of a vehicle. I think it would be really fun. I would probably add to the fun factor of this tank. I wouldn't touch anything except add something more to it. Maybe a grenade launcher, like they do on the Becky Lynch. A grenade launcher with like special penetration. And so you're sitting there with like 200 penetration or something like that. And you have like a 2 seconds reload and you're doing 150 damage. I think that would be so much fun. You have to be close range, so you zoom in and you go pop, 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 pop. I think that would be really cool. That's what I would do. This isn't really... Oh, well, what do I rate it? I rate it a 5. I really don't care about its existence. The T92... I mean, if you're talking about other artillery at tier 10, this is a 10. You have pretty good accuracy, pretty good reload, 1,100 alpha with your AP, 370 millimeters of AP penetration. That's insane. And you just sit in the back and you just wail on people. I mean, that's what already does, and you don't have to worry about being shot back at. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. What would I do to change this vehicle? I would give it back its old reload. I would give, and that's going to be the case for all artillery, I would give all the artillery back their old reloads. And so, yes, you're taking 37 seconds to reload this gun, but you're doing damage for free. That's what I would do to this one. I wouldn't change anything else. The reload needs to be nerfed. That way it's not firing so often. Manticore. The Manticore received a camouflage nerf. I would simply, and let me rate it. I'm rating it a 9. I think it's amazing. But it's only amazing if there are other tanks not in the game that are in the game. So what would I do to change this tank? Very simply, I would give it back its old camouflage. Call it a day. That is the Manticore to me. Centurion Action 10, I'm gonna give this an 8. I think I enjoy it a little bit more than the Patton. I like the extra speed it has, and the very jack of all trades to it. Yeah, I'd give this one an 8. It's good at everything, but not great at anything. Therefore, okay, what do you do to it to make it stand out? just a little bit better than the other mediums? And that is a good question, because I think this is the perfect baseline tank in the game that you should base every tank off of. Like, okay, the Action X is the baseline tank. For mediums anyway, what should we do? Okay, well, if the Action X is the baseline tank and we want to make a faster medium, then let's say, okay, we make a faster Action X, but that means we have to nerf something about it. And so that's what I would use the Centurion Action 10 to, and so I'm actually not going to change it. This is the only tank I'm not going to change, because to me it's the baseline medium. Now the FV4 202. Oh boy. I give this one a 10. It's my favorite medium in the game and one of my all-time favorite tanks in the game. I think it's ranked 2 or 3, maybe even 1. It depends on the day. I think it's a 10. I think it's amazing. I love it, love it, love it. But there is one thing I would change about it. The turret is really weak. They love to pen right where the gun is, and I wish that were different, but I wouldn't change it because it might be too good. What I would do is I would give it better HESH shells. HESH is its specialty, but for some reason you're firing them off and you're rolling for 430. Like, why am I rolling for 430 with my HESH shells when those are my premium rounds? And you take such a gamble shooting your HESH, because what if you don't pen? You only have 210 pen, which is really, really low. So this one of two things I would do. Either I would buff its HESH pen, maybe to 235, or I would buff its HESH alpha to 510. I think 510 HESH alpha would be so incredible. I think a lot more people would play it. A lot more people would shoot the HESH shells because you're doing 510 alpha damage. I think that's really cool. That's what I would do. Chieftain Mark 6 is at an incredible place right now. It is so incredibly good. It almost feels like a tier 10.5. It's not quite tier 11, but it feels way too good at the moment, in my humblest of opinions. I just pull that out. If I want a 7,000 damage game, I just pull out. You guys saw me gold marking it. I haven't finished the gold mark, but you saw me playing those games, and we were doing 7,000, 8,000, even 9,000 damage games. The Chieftain is just the tank you pull out to do that. And so what I would do to nerf this tank, which is a 10 in my mind, this is a 10, is I would nerf its hit points down to 2,200, just like the E5. Okay, take away some of its breathing room. Okay, 100 hit points may not seem like much, but I do think it's going to pull it back just a little bit. The FV215B, this is a 10. This tank is a 10 for me. I love it. It's my favorite tank in the game at the moment, and it looks so good with this camouflage. Look at it. Oh my gosh, this camo is so good. I freaking love it. What would I do to change it? It's at a really good spot right now, but I do have to change something, right? I would give it 5 more shells, like the Super Conqueror. It should have 40 shells instead of 35, and that's all I would do to it. If I were to do something else, I would buff its, I would also buff its shell velocity on AP. Like, let's take a look at the AP shell velocity. It's 1,067. I think I would give it 1,200 AP shell velocity. That is such a cool number for AP, 1,200. That's what I would do. Super Conqueror gets the same treatment because it's the same gun, so 1,200 on its AP rounds. And I would also, I would buff this armor so that, see where the spaced armor is, you just can't pen. Heat shells can't go through the spaced armor at all. That's what I would do. I'd make it heat resistant. Obviously, if you weave between the heat spaced armor, then you can penetrate. But as far as the heat shield goes, I would make it completely immune to heat shells. Just make those shells go away. Like, oh, you fire heat at my tank, gone. Does nothing. That's what I would do. And that would kind of be an overall nerf I would do to heat shells, where they just don't go through spaced armor at all. They don't just struggle with it, they don't go through it. Therefore, you can't shoot heat into tracks, you can't shoot heat into super Pershings. You know, you actually have to aim your guns. I want there to be less laziness in this game. Just load your premium rounds. I want them to have drawbacks. So yeah, that's what I would do to the heat shell. Super Conqueror, though, I'm going to rate it a 6. It's slow. It gets penned by everything now. It's fallen out. The gun feels underwhelming when the E5 exists, and then you have the same gun on the FE215B, which just does 4 times better. So yeah, I'm going to rate it a 6. You have the same hit points right now as the E5 does. Alright, but the E5 has the same DPM as you. Higher alpha damage, higher heat pen, more mobility, better armor. And the only thing the E5 does not have is 10 degrees of gun depression. Otherwise, it's better than the Super Conqueror in every way. The Valor, I'm going to rate a 7. There's a big difference between this Valor Chieftain, and the Tech Tree Chieftain. Ours is nerfed into oblivion from PC. Ours is slow. Ours has a bad engine. Ours has a horrible hull. The only thing you have going for you is that turret, but your gun handling is pretty bad, and your DPM is really bad. It's too bad about it. But it's still pretty good because getting hull down, you are pretty strong because of your small cupola and your robust turret. What would I do to change this tank? I would do one thing. I would buff its engine power. Right now we're sitting at 14 horsepower per 10. I think 16.5 horsepower per ton would be enough, so maybe give it about 960 horsepower. I think that would be enough to give it some kind of benefit. Now you're moving around a little bit more like a medium tank. You're a little bit more mobile than the Chieftain Mark 6. I think that would really help it. The Nemesis MBT. This one doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I just played it yesterday and I had a decent game. And that, I mean, you've got a gun depression, right? I would give it 11 degrees of gun depression. Right now it has 10. I would give it just that special extra 1 degree over the other British heavies. And it needs to have better gun handling like the other British heavies, because right now it's very derpy. And that's what I would do. I'm going to rate this tank a 4. It's awful. It's better than it was when it was released, but it's still a 4 for me. And that's what I would change about it. The FE225. I would nerf. And yeah, we're going to go into the nerfing. I would nerf its side armor. Too many weird bounces off its side, broadside, with my tier 10s. Like, it's just randomly thick in places. It's like, no, if you catch a tank in the side, you should be able to go through it. 100%. Boom, straight through the side. What am I going to rate this tank, though? I'm going to rate it a 7. Maybe even a 6. It's about on par with the Super Conqueror for me. I don't really care for it. Moving on to the 4005. This is going to be very controversial. People are not going to be happy. I'm going to rate this thing like a 7. It's very low right now. And I'm not happy with the nerfs they gave it. Why they nerfed its penetration. And they nerfed its alpha damage. It was like one or the other. See how it does. I would nerf its penetration more on its Hesh shells. That's what we're going to talk about. The Hesh. What would I change on the Hesh? I would give it back to 1750. That was novel about the tank. And remember, they nerfed this tank at the same time they introduced the Sturm Tiger. It was basically a selling point for the Sturm Tiger. Hey guys, remember that alpha you had and you lost it? Well, now you have it on the Sturm Tiger. No. I would remove... yeah. Okay, I would remove the nerf. But I would not give it back its 273 millimeters of Hesh penetration. I would give it 230, 235 Hesh pen. And 1750 alpha damage. I'm going to be hated for that, I think. But that's what I would do. Badger time. Badger, Badger, Badger. Badger needs to be able to go hull down and shoot people in the face. And that is something it can't do. Everything just pens you now. E4s, E3s, Terrans, all these tank destroyers everywhere, they can pen you in the upper plate with their premium rounds, and it's obnoxious. So I would buff the upper plate probably by about 20 millimeters all across the board. But otherwise, this is a 7. I'd rate it a 7, which is too bad because I'd give the Tortoise a 9. If I'm going to rate the Tortoise, it's a 9. But this tank, buff its upper plate armor. You don't need to touch the lower plate or the side armor because those are the weak points. Buff the upper plate all across the board by 20 millimeters. Death Star. Death Star is a 7 as well. It might even be an 8 because of the camouflage. Just that sneaky play style you can do with this that you can't do with the 4005 is actually really cool. But if I were to change it, I would do exactly what I did on the 4005. Give it back its old Hesh, but nerf the pen down to 230. Technodrome. Technodrome is a 9. Technodrome, maybe even an 8. I don't see it as being as special as other, or as overpowered as other tank destroyers, and that's because it doesn't hit very hard. 630, you have very nice camouflage, but you only have 630 alpha damage, and all of your shells only have 290 standard pen, which is about on par for tank destroyers at tier 10. And so you don't have special penetration, you don't have special alpha damage, but you do have these special rounds where you can switch between different shots for different DPMs. What I would do is I would make a drastic difference on this tank between the shells. Your DPM only changes by 100 when you go from the big 630 alpha to the 250. I would make it more like 300 or 400 DPM difference. So if you switch to the 250, you have more DPM, and so instead of the 4.5 seconds reload, I would make it like 3.8, maybe even 3.5. Give it that special DPM, because if you're looking at the Canonian Jagdpanzer or the Jagdtiger 88, Jagdtiger 88 is reloading just as quickly, if not, I think a little bit faster than this, but it has 280 alpha damage. So you're being beat by a preferential tier 8 when you're firing your small gun. And I think that's a little strange. I would give it close to that. And then the Canoni Jagdpanzer, which we just did a review on, we have a 3.7 seconds reload. Like, it's crushing this thing in DPM. And that's okay. Those can have better DPM, but I do think that this needs to have just a little bit more on the small shot. Now the CGC, I'm going to give this one a 7. It's frustrating to play because of the accuracy and the reload. But what I would probably do to it, you're like, wait, but you were just talking about how annoying it was. Yeah, I know. I would nerf its reload to how it was before, just like I did to the T92. All right, but I wouldn't change the alpha damage, so that means it has 40% less DPM. And I'm okay with that. You're firing 40% less often, but you are indirect fire, so you're doing it safely, and it would mean you have to choose your shots, choose who the proper targets are to shoot, and you can't just pick somebody and rain down on them every 22 seconds, and there's nothing they can do, and they don't get to have a fun game, right? That's stupid. Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, they did some very good changes to this tank that I am happy with, but I would do a little bit more. The Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, I'm going to rate it a 7 as far as light tanks go. It's got one of the better guns for the light tanks, but I think it could do better. 420 base view range, which is nice. We don't have to change that because we gave the Sheridan 430, right? I would give this a better gun. I think it should have very nice penetration. Make it special. Instead of 242 standard APCR pen, I would buff it up to something like the mediums, maybe even 258 millimeters of standard pen. That would be so cool, and that's what would be special about this tank. 258 standard pen and 300 premium pen. That's what I would do. The Leopard 1 is in an incredible place right now. It really is. They did not buff its penetration. So they buffed its alpha damage, and they gave it APCR instead of heat as its premium rounds. But they didn't buff its premium standard pen like they did on PC. It's got 276 millimeters of standard pen on PC. They didn't do that for the Leopard. I think I would do that for the Leopard. I would give it the 276 millimeters of standard pen. And what else would I do to it? I would nerf its reload by half a second. By half a second. It's a sniper tank. You don't need to be going in brawling with it at the start of the game and out DPMing another tier 10 medium. That's silly. Use it late game. Clean up late game. Your DPM should be nerfed. I would remove half a second or add half a second to the reload. And I think it'd be a good place because now you're still sniping. I've given you better standard rounds. And your combat effectiveness, if you're playing the tank how it's designed to be played, is still just as effective. E50M. Love the E50M. What would I do to it? Oh, wait, back to the Leopard. I gotta rate it. I'm rating it a 10. It's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. E50M. I'm rating this a 6. I love the E50M, but it suffers. It's very hard to play these days. I pull it out and I'll have good games here and there, but people just blast through your upper plate. People blast through your turret. The upper plate used to be what was special about this tank, and now it's not. What would I do to it? I would buff its turret front. I don't think they've done this yet. They did do it to 230. I would do it to 258. That's such a random number, I know, but that's a lot of standard rounds. At tier 10 is 258. So I'd give it 258. And so standard rounds are at least bouncing off of it because it is angled back a touch, and if they get a not a great roll on their pen, it's going to bounce off. That's what I would do. And I would also increase its horsepower because I want it to have better horsepower per ton, because ramming is really what makes this tank good. It makes it a bully, very good bully against other mediums if you can get in their faces. And so I would allow it to have that ability a little bit better. And so yeah, I would buff its engine as well from 1200 to probably 1350. Moving on to the E100. E100 is, again, in a fairly good place. Very powerful tank. I'm giving it a 9. I think it's incredible. Yeah, I'm giving it a 9. What would I do to the tank to change it? This one is kind of more obvious. I would only change the second gun. Or the 128. I would give it the 560 alpha damage instead of the 490. And so if you decide to use that, I think that's pretty cool. And that's what I would change about this 9. This is a 9. The mouse is an 8 for me. I would give it the same treatment. I would give it 560 alpha. I know it doesn't have that on PC, They didn't give it the 560. They kept it at the 490, but give it 560. I think it should be able to hit a little bit harder because whenever you square at somebody to shoot them, they pen you. And so you may as well win those trades a little bit better. If somebody wants to sit there in front of your gun while it turns toward them, you should be able to punish them for it. I wouldn't buff the cheek armor. I think it's fine. If you angle your turret like this, you're basically impenetrable. And so I wouldn't touch that. The VK 701K, this is a 2 for me. They buffed the fighting compartment underneath the turret, like when you're side scraping, but not enough. Tier 10s still go through it with standard rounds, and that's where your ammo rack is. And they can blast straight through your mantlet if they shoot you near the gun. That's really too bad. That should not be the case. I'd make it so that the mantlet can't be penned. Okay, there's space armor there. It can't be penned. That's silly. You have a cupola on top they can shoot, and you have the fighting compartments. I wouldn't change the fighting compartments. I think those are a fine weak point. If people want to shoot that, they can shoot it, but I would at least buff the turret so that they can't pen the gun mantlet. And I would remove the ammo rack from the fighting compartment. Why is the ammo rack in your weak spot, your big obvious weak spot? I don't know. I'd get rid of it. The Panzer 7, I'm going to rate this a 3, just a little bit higher than the VK, just because I kind of like the gun a little bit better. But it's got the same armor layout, the same weak spots, so I would do the same change. And I would also buff the gun. Yes, I would. I would give it the Ag Tiger gun, just straight up the Ag Tiger gun. The 276 millimeters of standard pen, the 352 millimeters of premium APCR pen. Just make this an incredible gun platform, okay? And that's what I would do to the VK. And if that gun makes it so good that you think, okay, well, the mantlet now shouldn't be buffed, then so be it. But otherwise, this tank is a 3 for me, so that's what I would do. We're moving right along, guys. We're up to 27 minutes. This is quite a marathon, isn't it? Jagdpanzer E100. Zounds. This one's a 9. I'm giving it a 9. I really think this tank is insane. A lot of people don't, but I really like it. I win in it all the time, in the sense of I do more damage than my health. That should be your goal in this game, by the way, and then you should get to a higher point from that, like as you go. But your goal should be doing more damage than your tank can take. That way, you've assisted your allies. But this tank is easy to do 3K, 4K. The only times you don't is when your team stomps on them, and if your team is stomping on them, then you win the game, right? So this tank just is good at winning. So I'm giving it a 9. How would I change the tank? That is a tough one. I think I would buff the standard pen. It's 299, and that's just such a weird number. It should have 300. I think this gun is just really, really cool, and it should be able to just bore through everyone. I would give it the same as the Death Star, 310. Yeah, I would. 310 standard pen, and I think it's doing fine. The Grill 15 is a 10, which is crazy to me because the Tron is even better, but I don't have the Tron, so... but the Grill 15 is a 10. It's really, really good. Therefore, it does not need a buff. So if we're going to change it, we're going to have to nerf it a little bit. So the question is, what would we do to the nerf? The nerf is easy. They've given it a 360 turret. I don't know why. It doesn't need a 360 turret. I would remove that, and I'd give it a 180. So it can go 90 to the right, 90 to the left. It can't turn all the way around. Bada bing, bada boom. The grill is fixed. Now we have the Waffle E100. Let me think. I still like it. I'm going to give it an 8. So the grill is a 10, Jagdpanzer is a 9, the Waffle's an 8. Oh, I don't know what you would do to this. I don't mind where it's at right now in the game. I really don't. I think it's in a good place. I think it's a lot more fair, a lot more balanced than it's ever been. But a part of me wants it to have 4 shots with the big gun. So you can have 4 shots with the small gun or 4 shots with the big gun. I would make it so they both have the same reload too. The thing about the big gun is, though, you're derpy, you have low pen. If you shoot premium, it's heat. And so, yeah, you have 4 750 alpha shots. But the trade-off is your derpy gun. Most people I see playing with the big gun are doing nothing anyway with the 3 shots. Give it 4 shots, call it a day. See how it does. And yeah, that's what that is. The Panzer is really good and competitive for taking the fight straight to the enemy as quickly as you can, catching them out, because you go 68 kilometers an hour, which is insane. But as far as it goes in pubs, it's got a 68% win rate. It's doing worse than the Kanonen Jagdpanzer at tier 8. The Kanonen Jagdpanzer here at tier 10 is just... it's bad, and that's because they match you up against another tank destroyer. You have even matchmaking here on console, where if there's a tank destroyer on one team at tier 10, then they match you up against a tier 10 on the other. And because of that, and your tank has heavy tank penetration, heavy tank alpha damage, you don't count as far as statistically goes. You're not a tank destroyer. You're a heavy tank with low health, and so you make your team suffer, and that's why this tank loses. It's the same reason the Kanonen Jagdpanzer at tier 8 suffers, is because you're going up against bigger guns. So I would really give this thing a good gun. It's a 120 millimeter gun, so it can have the same 420 alpha damage that the Americans have. Why not give it that? And I would buff its pen to be more on par with the other Germans, like the Jagdtiger. So maybe 276 millimeters of standard AP pen with incredible shell velocity, and 352 millimeters of APCR pen. And that's what I would do. Otherwise, this tank is a 3. It's a 3 for me. AMX 13105. This is another good one. Let me think. I'm rating this an 8. Incredible gun. So easy to do damage in. I really like it. It's tough for me to think of a way to change this tank. I think I would remove its heat shells. I like the idea of premium AP. I think I'd remove the heat and give it AP as its premium rounds at 275 pen. And that's what I would do to change this tank. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but like I said, I have to change everything. AMX 50B is now a medium tank. I'm gonna give this one an 8. I think it's good. So I've put it on par with the T57 Heavy, but it is nowhere near as good as the 57 Heavy. But we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the 57, or we're gonna reverse those, should I say. This thing has 2.5 seconds interclip, while the 57 Heavy has 2 seconds. So we changed the 57 Heavy to 2.5. We're gonna change this one to 2 seconds. Because this thing is lighter armored, I'm gonna make it unload its magazine faster. So it's boom, 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 and then it can get out. And so the enemy team have less time to react to it. And I think that's fair because you're big, you're huge, and you get penned by everything, including HE. Okay? Make an ambush tank, make it more like the Lorraine, and call it a day. The Batchat 25 ton, this is a 9. This tank is really, really good. What I'm going to change about it is the reload. They nerfed its reload by 4 seconds because they were looking at the stats on how well it's played, but how well it was played overall. Meaning they weren't looking at how often it was played. And when you look at how often it's played and who's playing it, you would have seen that only Unicums were really playing the Batchat, and that's why it was overperforming. They nerfed its reload by 4 seconds, which doesn't really change anything about the tank because it's all about that. It's got multiple things it's all about. It's all about that camouflage, it's all about that mobility, and it's all about the burst damage. And so they didn't really actually touch the tank by doing that. I would just give it back its 4 seconds reload. And that's about it. I think it's fine where it is. The AMX 30B. The worst M60, the worst Leopard 1. No point to it. You're slower than the Leopard 1 now. You're about the same speed, just a touch faster than the M60. But the M60 is more robust, has more view range, has a better gun. I don't like that. What I would do with the AMX 30B, which is a 5 for me, maybe even a 4. I like it because I love this gun. It's a good gun, and you have mobility. But the Leopard and M60 are just better. What I would do is I would just make this so laser accurate on the move. Like, basically, the bloom doesn't get any bigger on the move. Okay? You just zoom around, shoot things on the move. I know that's something I don't like about the game, but if you specifically make tanks to do that, then that's great. Like, I would give it patent gun handling on the move, if not even a little bit better. So that's what I would do to this tank. The Rats. People like the Rat. I'm not a big fan of it. I do think it's really good, but it's kind of boring for me. I'm going to give it a 7. A 3-shot autoloader, which is just kind of better than the Batchats because of your insane accuracy. Like, you are so accurate. 0.31 base accuracy. Why does that? Why? Why do you have 0.31 accuracy when other tanks with smaller guns at tier 10 are suffering and don't get that? So I would nerf the gun handling on this tank. I think it's too good. That's exactly what I would do. I would also nerf the turret armor. Why on earth is it 250 millimeters of spaced armor? I don't know. There's some places you can pen and plenty of places you can't. This is a French boy that goes really fast. It's not supposed to have armor, and you have 12 degrees of gun depression. You don't need to give it armor. I make the turret an easy pen. All right, make this a glass cannon. And if I'm making it a glass cannon, then I'm not changing the gun. All right, and that's actually what I would do. I would nerf the turret. All right, standard shells from even tier 8s can go through it. That's all I would do. Andre the Giant. Golly, this tank is kind of bad. But also it isn't. Andre the Giant is a 4. As soon as people know what they're doing against you, they do. Your gun is poo-poo. Your mobility is poo-poo. I would give it 600 alpha. So 560 would have 600. And that's what I would do. The Foch 155. I would not... I'm giving it a 6. I love to pull it out and shoot nothing but HE. Right now I have nothing but heat loaded with the big gun. I would not change the small gun. The small gun is good where it's at. In fact, that's the more competitive gun. But the 155 is the more fun gun. But it's not very competitive because of the interclip reload and the raw reload, which is like 40 seconds. I wouldn't change the reload, but I would change the interclip. The interclip right now I think is 5 or 5.5 seconds. That is way too long considering... It's 5 seconds. Considering the waffle exists with 2 seconds with the same alpha. So I would change it to 3.5. It's like, what? 1.5 seconds difference? Yes. 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 I'd make it a 3.5 interclip. Make it punish people for stepping out in front of it. Bada bing, bada boom. But if I'm doing that, I'm nerfing the gun a touch. And so I'm giving it 750 alpha damage instead of 770. That's what I would do. 770 is so random too. But I would give it 750. I know. I know. Moving on. Bat Chap. Artillery. I'm giving this one a 2. 10 seconds interclip is really bad. It used to have 6. It had 6 shells. Sorry, did it have 6? It had 4. I think it had 4 shells in the magazine. But it had 6 seconds in between each shot. I would give that back. And give it back the old reload, which is like a minute long. And so you're firing your shells. Once you're loaded, you're firing them off a little bit quicker. But you don't have as many of them. So that's what I would do. T100 LT is a 10. It is insanely good. The way it zooms around, the way it's low profile, the way it has pretty good camouflage, incredible gun stabilization. It is so good at brawling. It is so good at killing other light tanks. It's a little bit weird because that should be the Sheridan's job. And so you're about to hear a nerf coming and you might not like it. 250 alpha damage. I would change it to 250. It's 100 millimeter. Yes, there's some hundreds that have 320, but there are also some that have 250 that the Russians have, so I'd give it 250. But I'd buff its reload because of that. I know. Probably don't like me because of what I just said, but that's what I would do to it. Again, I have to change something, and I'm trying to nerf more than I'm buffing because we need tanks nerfed. Object 140. This tank has seen better days. Let me think. I like where it's at. I do. I'm gonna rate it a 7. No, I'm gonna rate it a 6. The only thing I would do to it is give it better on the move gun handling. I know, CloneGuy, you said no more of that. I know. But you're gonna hear why in a sec, because we're about to go through all of them. I would give it better gun handling on the move. Best in class gun handling on the move. Basically how it was before. So just the original version of the 140. I like that. Moving on to the 62A, this thing is an 8. Why they gave it more speed, I don't know. Why they gave it more DPM, I don't know. I would nerf the DPM to be the same as the 140 like it used to be. So the same DPM as the 140. Doesn't need to be better. And I don't like how they buffed the speed to 58. I don't. This tank was special because of its turret armor, where it didn't have that weak spot on top like the 140 does, but it lost a degree of gun depression, but it's the most accurate Russian medium on standing still. But I think players don't know how to use that, and so that's why they gave it the speed. So I will keep the speed, but I'm going to nerf the DPM down to 140 level, and I'm nerfing the on-the-move accuracy as well. It's good at standing still accuracy. The 430U, kind of not a special tank anymore at all, if it ever was. It was nerfed into oblivion. Gun handling is awful. The mobility is awful. The hit points got nerfed. I'm giving it a 6, putting it where the 140 is. It's a 6. What would I do to change it? I would give it 2,050 hit points, and that's it. Give it a little bit more robustness. The 430. Oh, and I would nerf its camouflage. It has more camouflage than the 430 does because they copy-pasted the 430 stats onto this tank, and then they changed the gun. And so you have the same camouflage as the 430 does. Don't know why that is. And then with that same patch, when they introduced this tank, the 430 had its camouflage nerfed. And that's what kind of made it special. The 430, they gave it another gun. I don't think it needed that. I'm giving this one an 8. I love this tank. But I'm going to do some changes. Okay? Nerfing the gun handling, how it used to be. Very derpy. But I'm buffing the camouflage. Okay? This needs to have the best DPM of the tier 10 mediums. Like, that is what was special about it back in the day. You had a derpy gun, but you had the best camouflage and the best DPM. I want it to have that back. And so that's what I would do. But the gun would be derpy. K91 is a weird one. I would actually give it the same reload as the 430 buff we just did. Otherwise, this tank right now for me is a 4. Its camouflage is bad for no reason whatsoever. It's supposed to have best-in-class camouflage as well, like the 430 used to. But they nerfed the camouflage, they nerfed the rate of fire, they nerfed the gun handling. I would give all those back. Best camouflage. Basically best DPM, or at least tied for it. And I think it would do very well. That's what I would do to change it. The 907. The 907 has horrible DPM. You don't see people playing it very much. It's considered OP on PC, but not really because people don't play it there anymore either. It's been cast aside. I'm giving it a 5. I think it's worse than the 140. I'm giving it a 5. What I would do to change it is I would buff its reload by half a second. I think that's all I would do, and then I would see how it's performing. The IS-7... Oh, man. This is a 10. This is undoubtedly a 10. The tank is so good right now. You just roll around and blast people. And I don't like that. I'm going to give it a buff and a nerf, okay? I'm nerfing its gun handling. It can't be hitting shots on the move the way it does. It just can't be. That's insane. So I'm nerfing the gun handling. Alright, it's not hitting shots on the move, and when it does, it's because you shouted Stalin, and it's amazing that you just hit the shot on the move. That's what I would do. I should be getting in people's faces and brawling. And to help with getting into people's faces and brawling, I am going to buff the engine power to 1200 from the 1050 it has. So I'm giving 150 more horsepower, but I'm removing its gun handling. That's the IS-7. IS-4. IS-4 is a 10. IS-4 is a 10. It is very, very good. The gun handling on it is way too good these days. It's been buffed. The DPM has been buffed unnecessarily so. It kind of puts the 113 to shame now, which is too bad because 113, that was supposed to be its specialty. So I'm nerfing the gun. Okay? I'm nerfing the gun on this tank. The gun handling, I don't know if I need to touch it because I'm going to nerf the DPM. I'm adding a second to the reload. Alright? But I am going to return and give it some kind of buff since I've just nerfed the gun so hard. And I'm giving it 160 upper plate instead of 140. So 160 upper plate. Right now it's 140 and the side armor is 160. So I'm going to just give it 160 all the way around. That way the upper plate is a little bit stronger, but that upper plate still gets defeated by premium rounds, no problem. It just won't get defeated so easily by standard rounds. So that's what I would do. So now you're really good at angling. Like, you are fantastic at angling your armor, but your DPM isn't as great. 260! 260 is going to see the same kind of treatment as the IS-7. I'm going to nerf and buff it. 260 right now, I'm going to give it a 9. I'm giving it a 9. It's less than the IS-7 and the IS-4, but it's up there. I'm giving it a 9. And I'm nerfing its health down to 2150. 150 less health. That might be brutal, but I'm buffing its engine power. Right now, the engine power is 1200, but it kind of feels sluggish, and I don't know why that is. I think it's the train resistances. So maybe, no, I wouldn't touch the engine power. I would touch the train resistances. I would buff the train resistances. I'd make it on firm 1, on medium 1.2, and on soft 1.5. So it's just zooming around, getting around a little bit better, but you have less health. I'll make it more like that heavy medium it was supposed to be. The Object 277. You all know I'm not a big fan of this tank. I'm giving this a 4. And that's because what made it special on PC was nerfed here on console, and that was the mobility. So the simple fix would be the mobility. I'm buffing the engine. That's it. I'm touching the engine, giving it better engine, 100, maybe even 150 more horsepower, seeing how it does, and then changing it later. That is the 277. The Object 279E, or 279 everyone. I like it. Once people shoot premium at you and know to shoot you flat, your armor means nothing. But if you're able to crest a ridge, angled at all, it's just like, hello, nothing they can do to you. But it's got 2 cupolas on top, which are very easily pennable if you can hit them, which I like. I don't know, I like what they've done with this tank. It's not quite OP like it is on PC. But we've got to change something about it, right? Oh, the DPM. I don't know why it has such a fast rate of fire. They buffed it like the IS-4. The gun handling and DPM is really good. I would nerf both of those. Unpopular opinion. People might not like that because they think the tank is underperforming. I think the 279E is just fine where it is. But I would nerf the gun a little bit. 705A is a 1. It's a 1. It's so bad. And I thank you guys on that video I made where I compared it to the FE25B. People were actually agreeing. It's so bad. They like, oh, I don't use that armor for side scraping. Oh, I don't use that tank because it just gets penned. Why does it just get penned? I don't know. I don't know. I might not change the armor though. Not yet. And you're like, what? Isn't that the whole point? It might be the point, but maybe not. The tank is very fat and wide. So that might not do much. So what I'm going to actually do is change the gun. I'm giving it 750 alpha damage. I'm not changing the reload or anything. 750 alpha damage. Call it a day. See how it does, and then we'll adjust later if we need to. 780. 780. I'm giving this one a 3. The gun is nice. The mobility is decent. But you get penned pretty easily by everything. And you have modules right behind all of your pennable parts. Ammo racks, fuel tanks, engine. It's all there. And so you're just losing modules. I would make the modules inside the tank a little bit smaller. That's all I would do. I would just make them a little bit smaller. So if you get penned, it's not the end of the world. Thunder Chief. Thunder Chief was unplayable for me because the upper plate and lower plate were completely trash. Easily penned. And the ammo rack was right there. So every time you get hit in the upper plate, you're getting ammo racked as well. And it's like, okay, so they need to do one of 2 things. Either they make it so the upper plate can't be penned, so the ammo rack isn't getting hit every time, or they make it so the ammo rack is not right there in the upper plate. I would do the latter. Alright, I don't think you need to touch the armor, just move the ammo rack. Maybe to the left and right of the turret, above the tracks. Don't have it in the upper plate. That's ridiculous. But this tank is a 2 for me. Then the 263. 263. This is an 8 for me. I think it's very good. Good armor, good mobility, decent gun. The gun is low end as far as tank destroyers go, but it's because of your mobility and your armor that really saves the day. But there's a glaring weak spot when people face hug you and auto lock you, is their gun shoots down into your engine deck, which is overmatchable. I would buff the engine deck so that doesn't happen. All right, and that's all I would do to this tank. So this tank is getting a buff. The 268. 268 is at a really good spot. I'm giving it a 9. It's even maybe a 10, but I'm giving it a 9. The gun is really good. The shell velocity got buffed. The pen is higher up there. The gun arc is better than it's ever been, and it's got more health. I don't think it needed the health. I think I would nerf it and give it 2,000 hit points. That's what I would do to it. Call it a day. The version 4 has armor and a poor gun and no mobility. But the armor is easily defeated. The upper plate you can go through with heat rounds because the angle is only 62 and it's very weak. APCR is bouncing off though. AP, high pen AP is going through it. Lower plate, same thing. Heat is going through it. High pen AP, high pen APCR because it's flatter is going through it. Superstructure, not so much. Cupola is weak. And like I said, you're slow. What would I do to this tank? To get it from the 4, I'm going to rate it. I'm going to rate it to 4. I'd give it 750 alpha damage. Call it a day. 750. Object 268, version 5. I know it's the same gun as the 268, but I'm going to change the gun. This tank right now for me is an 8. It is a heavy tank, basically, but it can be used as a tank destroyer. Very good gun, incredible gun. 303 standard pen, 395 premium pen. To change this 8, right? I rated an 8. I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna give it 2,000 hit points. It's like, what? That's a buff. What are you doing? Why 2,000 hit points? 2,000 hit points because I want to encourage it being used on the front line more. And I'm nerfing the gun to 750. 750 alpha damage instead of 850. 261. 261. Same thing I did with the other artillery. As far as this one goes, this one's a 9 because of its incredible rate of fire and accuracy. I think it's a 9. It's really good. But I'm going to do one of 2 things. One, I'm either going to nerf its reload to how it used to be, so 40% longer, or I'm going to do something drastic, and I'm going to do this to all artillery. They're going to be direct fire, not indirect fire. They are all direct fire, but like in in Cold War mode, they have no rendered distance cap, meaning they can still somewhat be indirect fire because they can shoot you from 600, 700, 800 meters if they have a line of sight on you. But they don't get to go into top-down view. They just zoom in. So incredible long-range snipers is what I would do to the artillery. And the fact, I love that idea. Make them insane long-range snipers. I like that. Ooh, I like that. That is such a cool idea. Okay, 121. 121 is an 8 for me. It is a superior Object 430U, in my opinion, though it lacks the armor. What would I do to it? Man, this is a tough one. I really like where it's at. I do. Oh, modules. This thing gets set on fire and ammo like crazy. I would make those a little bit smaller and harder to hit, so it's not getting set on fire and ammo. That's what holds this thing back from the other mediums. Is when you take a hit, and I don't like that. 121B, I'm rating it an 8. Same thing. It's basically the same tank, except with a 105. Very good 105. I really like it. Very competitive. I'm going to give it the same treatment as the regular 121. Make it so the modules are just a bit harder to hit. The 5A is in a fantastic spot right now. I'm giving it an 8, just like the other Chinese tanks. It's an 8 for me. I would give the shell velocity just a little bit. You give it more shell velocity on its standard rounds, and I think it'll be doing very, very well. What is it now? It's probably like 800 something. It's 930. Wow, let's give it 1030. 1030, call it a day. The 113 is an incredible spot in my opinion right now. 7 degrees of gun depression over the side, 5 over the front. I'm giving this one an 8 as well. The only thing is the gun is very comparable to the IS-4, but we just nerfed the IS-4's gun. And so now this one is just a touch better. It should be, but just to make sure, I'm buffing this thing's gun handling just a touch. Just a touch. Making sure it outshines the IS-4 in that way. The WZ-111QL, which is the 5A but with a bigger gun and worse DPM, I'm giving it an 8. All these Chinese tanks are getting an 8. I think this tank is really good where it's at. What would I do to change it? Shell velocity, same thing as the 5A. Give it better shell velocity. Call it a day. The Highlander just got some buffs. It did. I'm giving it a 7. I think it's under par for the other Chinese tanks, though. I think the buffs were good on it. It's got decent armor, very poor mobility, a decent gun. It's got an autoloader, but it's 5 seconds interclip. It might be longer than that, actually. It's 5 seconds, okay. That's a long time. That's a long time for only 545 alpha damage, considering you have things like the T-58 heavy shooting at you as well. But I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to touch the health. I'm going to give it 200 more health. I'm 2,300 hit points, and then I think it would be an 8 for me. That's what I would do to the Highlander. The 114 SP2. This tank I like, but it struggles because it's low alpha compared to the other tank destroyers, low mobility compared to other tank destroyers, low armor compared to other tank destroyers, low camouflage compared to other tank destroyers. It's just worse in class in every way. The penetration is low. I'm giving it a 7, maybe even a 6. To change that, I'm making the gun more like the Grill 15s, but with higher pen. I'm giving it 290 standard pen, 250 premium APCR pen. That's it. I'll make the gun punch, make it go through armor really easy, and that's what I do to the SP. The WZ-113 GFT, I'm giving this a 6 as well. It is inferior to the 268 in almost every way. Basically the same gun, but it's bigger and slower and worse camouflage, and the armor is defeatable by all the guns at tier 10 these days, and so the armor is almost non-existent. So what I would do is transform this into a beast. What did I give it? A 6? I want it to be an 8 like the rest of the Chinese tanks. I'm buffing that superstructure. All right, let's go to the armor viewer so we can see. It's 250. I'd just make it 300. I'd say screw it, it's 300. You can still go through your upper plate and lower plate, no problem. So hide those. But I'm making that superstructure 300. I don't give a care. All right, this thing hunkers down, gets hauled down, and blasts you. And if I'm doing that, I might nerf the alpha to 750. So a buff and a nerf. STB1. I'm giving this a 2. It sucks. It's awful. It's terrible. Siege mechanic was horrible. All right, they gave it siege mechanic, and now it has 6 degrees of gun depression, and it's all rocky, and the gun handling is even worse than it's ever been. It's got 6 degrees of gun depression if you're not looking over the front and you're using siege mode. Horrible. Giving it a 2. Penetration is low. Gun handling was low. I hate it, hate it, hate it. What would I do to it? I would revert it back to how it was. Give it 10. No. And I would give it 11. 11 degrees of gun depression, okay? 11 degrees of gun depression all around except maybe the back. And remove siege mechanic. Bada bang, bada boom. I'd also give it 360 alpha damage, which is a weird number, but I like that. 360 alpha damage and better DPM. That is so cool to me. Just a smaller gun. It just goes boom, 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 shooting off. Oh, that'd be so cool. I like that idea. That's what I would do. And then it wouldn't be a 2 for me. It might be an 8. Type 5 Heavy. Type 5 Heavy, you're not going to like potentially what I'm going to say about it. I'm giving this one an 8, but it's also a 4. It's weird that way because the armor is so bad, but it's so good. The armor is standard round proof. It doesn't have weak spots, all except for the cupola, which is still very thick. But these driver's hatches and machine guns are not weak spots. The angled point when you angle like this is not a weak spot anymore. I don't mind that so much. The lower plate's not a weak spot. Turret front is not a weak spot. You load gold and that's how you punch through it. You hit as flat as you can and you go through. How am I changing this tank? What I'm doing in the tank is I'm not touching the gun. I think the gun is fine where it is. But I'm touching the armor. I'm buffing the armor all over. Just buffed. I don't want shells going through this tank. It's a made-up tank anyway. Just have the armor so thick that even premium rounds don't go through it. I'm serious. Except the cupola. The cupola can still be penned by premium rounds. But what I would do is, you see this driver's hatch and machine gun? I would make those pennable. You can pen those with standard rounds, and you can pen them with tier 8s premium rounds. So make them 250. That's what I would do. But everything else is going to be like 320. I'm serious. Just thicken it. Make it killable if you shoot it in the weak spot. Make it unkillable if you don't. So now you don't get an advantage shooting premium rounds against it. You just aim for the weak spots. That's how you kill it. TVP T50-51. I'm giving this one a 7, maybe even a 6. It has fallen. It has fallen hard. It used to be the tank, the go-to that all the good players would play. They would play it. They would farm people in it, and it was overtuned when it came out, and it was overtuned on PC with the same stats when it came out. Everybody used it. Everybody loved it. It was disgusting. Then they nerfed it. They took away some of its reload and interclip reload and introduced the machine with the old reload and the old interclip at the same time that they nerfed this one, which was scumbaggy. They did that because they wanted you to spend money on the machine, which it worked because this tank fell out of love. Then many years later, they finally rebuffed this tank back to how it used to be, but nobody plays it anymore. It's underwhelming, and it underperforms. And I believe that is because of the gun. Look at the 248 standard pen at tier 10 on a medium tank. Awful. Awful. I'm giving it 261. 261 standard pen, 215 premium pen. That's all I would do. I think that is fair, and it would do very well. Now the VZ55. A tank I haven't played too much as well. Very easy to pen, very easy to kill, not much health. The gun is still very nice. I'm going to give it a 7. I would prefer the single-shot Chinese tanks and the single-shot Russian tanks over this thing. But I'm going to give it a 7. I would give it 100 more health, 2,200 hit points. I think that would be fair, and that would help it a lot and make it a little bit more liked among the community and maybe more played. Moving on to Stritzvong 103B, I'm going to give you this a 7 as well. It fell out for me. The UDES at tier 8 was the best in this line with that camouflage and that mobility, and basically the same gun. I think the gun is fantastic, but the armor is where it really suffers. You have all this spaced armor, but the heat still goes through it. When I'm firing heat at this thing, I still just shoot it in the spaced armor, because heat still shoots 5 meters, right? And that's how far away it is from the hull. And so it doesn't matter. Heat can still travel 5 more meters after hitting spaced armor. I would make it so that, again, same nerf that I did, or buff that I gave the Super Conqueror. If you hit this thing if your heat hits any spaced armor, it just dies. And that is how I would change this tank. Make it so that it's heat resistant. You can still shoot over the gate and hit the cupola, sure. But you have spaced armor on the bottom, and you have spaced armor on the top, but heat still goes through it, and I don't like that. And so that's what I would change. Make it heat resistant, unless you can avoid the heat shields. The Chunk! Polish, basically 60 TP. Very powerful tank. I'm giving this one an 8. It is in a very good spot. Very good indeed. But I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, I don't like how you can pen it underneath the turret, all around the front. You see that? That should be thicker, because your lower plate is very weak and easily penned. Very big, and your cupola is very big as well. And so I'm giving this a buff and a nerf. The buff would be you can't really get penned around the turret anymore. The nerf is I would give it 700 alpha. I think it would do fine with 700 alpha. Just a little bit of a little touch me up. And last but not least, the chisel, I'm giving it a 6. I don't enjoy the chisel very much. The gun is very derpy. But it's like, oh, you have the chieftain gun, so you have more alpha than the other mediums. That's why it's derpy. It's still too derpy, and the DPM is too low. They nerfed this thing into oblivion because it was overplayed back in the day. And I agree that it needed a nerf, not what they did to it, though. The gun handling got nerfed, and the DPM got nerfed. And now you have tanks like the T95E6, which just blows it out of the water. Yeah, no. I would give it chieftain gun handling. I wouldn't touch the DPM. It can still have kind of worse in class DPM for the mediums. I don't mind that. But I would give it a laser gun, kind of like the Leopard one. Very, very laser. And that's its specialty, but it has bad DPM. And I would like that. And I think it would increase from 6 to maybe an 8 for me. I would use that. That's the only reason the E50M to me is viable, is because of its laser gun. Even though it has horrible DPM for a medium tank at tier 10, it's terrible DPM. The gun hits, and it always hits, almost always hits. It's such a laser. And that's why it works, even though you have lower DPM, because you're penning more shots and hitting more shots. Effectively, you have more DPM. And so that's what I would do to the chisel as well. Well, there you have it. I've gone through 80 of my tanks. I've rated them each and every one of them and given you something I would change about them. All except the Action X, because the Action X to me is the baseline medium tank. It's the baseline tank in the game. It's the most Joe average. Everything should either have things better than it and worse than it, or worse than it and better than it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that is the baseline tank. And so I didn't change the Action 10. But boom, bada bang, bada boom. One other thing I would change about the chisel is I would also make it go 53 and not 57, because it's on the Action X hull. Why does it go 57? I don't know. Make it go 53. Now we're done. I hope you guys enjoyed this very, very long video. If you did, slap that like button. Comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on my tanks and my changes and my ratings and all that stuff. And let me know the tanks you have and which ones you love and what you would change. I like stirring up interest in conversation. Yep. And that's it. I'll see you guys all later. Take care, everyone. And peace out.